Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. What a weekend. Our illustrious former president and current Republican frontrunner for candidate for president almost assassinated. I mean, literally inches away from being assassinated. Wild. And my very first thought on this was, oh, this is going to be a mess. And I knew I was probably going to end up making a video about it eventually because I was going to have thoughts. But I wanted to wait a little bit before I got a little bit more information about what happened and, other people's reactions, the broader atmosphere. And, obviously it's still a developing situation. Um, and there's a lot we don't know. We don't really know what the shooter's motive is. Being a registered Republican doesn't necessarily mean anything. My mom is from a rural county in West Virginia, and in that particular county, the Republican candidate basically always wins. And so if you can't vote in the Republican primary, then you don't really get a say in local politics. And so even though she more closely aligns herself with the Democrat Party, she is a registered Republican. So, registration doesn't necessarily mean endorsement, but it is interesting wrinkle we'll see here. And, it is very possible, Donald Trump is very famous that his motivation was not anything to do with politics. People attempt to assassinate famous people occasionally just to gain notoriety, and we don't know that that's not what this is. And I think it would be unlikely that it's related to politics, not related to politics, but it's possible. And so, that's something we have to think about. And, but on some level, it doesn't matter. I was watching Dead to Main streaming about this, and they said that, it doesn't really matter whether this is real or faked or what the motivation is or whatever, because people will take from it what they want to. If they are right wing, they will think that it's a horrible attack on them personally. And if they're left wing, they'll think it's a conspiracy that's meant to be an attack on them personally. I really think that there isn't going to be some easy answer that the majority of people are going to accept as to what happened. A clear narrative. We have what we saw, literally saw the man being shot. I mean, I have seen a freeze frame or a picture or something from one of the press outlets that literally shows the bullet whizzing past, like his head is here and then the bullet's right behind his head. You can literally see the bullet. And there's witnesses like crazy, and a lot of them were in the media. And so what actually occurred is not going to be in dispute as much as why it occurred and whose fault it is. And I've seen a lot of different takes on it, and some of them I think are a little more insightful than others. Like, for example, Mudahar, who is Canadian and also says very frankly in his video that he doesn't really follow U.S. politics that much, thinks it's assured that this is going to win Trump the presidency. And I don't necessarily think it's that cut and dry. I think if he wins, you'd have to say this is part of it. But I don't know that this assures a win, Uh, and I've heard a lot of people who have been very complimentary about how, firmly Biden's taken the situation in hand and is in communication with everyone and working on all these different levels to check security for not just Trump but themselves. I mean, because it's a very real possibility that one of Trump's most fervent fans might feel like there's some need to retaliate and decide that uh, Kamala or Joe need to go. And so it's a kind of terrifying time right now because there's so many possibilities about what could happen. And we won't know until we know. It's just a waiting game. And so, of course, then that leads to people wanting to speculate, and it's it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And the only thing I'm certain of is I feel absolutely terrible for the families of the people who were injured, and the man who was killed. And I do include Donald Trump in that. I'm sure this had to have been very scary for his kids, and anyone in his family who loves him. I'm sure they were very worried, and that's in a very human way. I don't like that. I feel bad for them. I don't necessarily think they're great people, but they don't deserve to have to go through this. In fact, when I told my goddaughter what had happened, her very first reaction was like, I know Donald Trump's not a good man, but, I hope, I'm so sad this happened. He didn't deserve it. And I'm like, you're right. Violence is not acceptable. But I also saw a man who immediately was thinking of the shot. He would want to make sure that somebody got the shot of him with the American flag behind him, with blood on his face, with his fist in the air. He was already thinking about the merchandise he was going to sell before the Secret Service even had him off stage. Like, this is a man who's extremely calculating about appearances and marketing and branding. And I am absolutely certain that he is going to use this in every way he can to make himself money, to get himself clout. And I honestly don't know about voters. I don't think that he honestly cares that much about, like, trying to woo voters. I think he assumes that if he just shows enough strength, he can barrel his way through, and the Republican Party has hitched its wagon to him, and they'll just keep a following because that's what they do. Because, that's how you lead, right? By following some guy who doesn't know what he's doing. Totally good leadership. Anyway, I I definitely know that there's going to be a lot of cynicism about this. In fact, I found out about the shooting because the assassination attempt, I should say, because my cousin messaged me with doubts that it was real. When we first didn't know very much about it at all. She's like, I don't know. And so, and now, obviously, she doesn't necessarily look at it that way, but that's going to be the inclination of people. And people who aren't paying attention very much may not hear whatever the eventual story is, which is why I think Dead Domain's right about it not mattering, right? Jeez. I honestly had kind of shut down and was kind of checked out of politics after the Supreme Court did what it did. I just giving the president virtual immunity. I was just like, nah, I can't think about this. It's too big. I've got too much going on. My depression is dragging me down. But then I had a few friends over, one of my old friends and her girlfriend, and we were talking about politics, and she's like, I'm not really into politics that much, but when Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump, I got out there and voted because I realized it was important. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we knew back then, we said back then, this election is going to determine if Roe v. Wade gets overturned. And we were right, we called it. and, and it's fixing to be so much worse. They want to get rid of contraception. They want to turn America into illiberal theocratic dictatorship. I mean, that's really what they want. It's so openly not patriotic, so openly anti-American, and that's the overwhelming platform for one of our two major political parties. So I don't know exactly what this event is going to do, but it hasn't changed the stakes, The stakes are still higher than we could possibly imagine. We're still talking about the future of the country right now. And I sincerely hope that people don't let this distract them from the actual reality of what we're doing here. It's not about a president. The presidency is not about a person. Shouldn't be about a person. It's about a platform. It's about a vision for the future and what you want the country to be like. What sort of vision you want to see executed in the executive branch, right? And Donald Trump's vision is glorifying himself. And as far as policy goes, he's willing to let the, most vile, extreme right-wing ideologues direct policy. And that puts us in a very scary place, because there are people out there who genuinely hate people like me, aromantic people, and asexual people, and trans people, gay people, people, pan people, polyamorous people, people who just don't want to get married, people who don't want to have children, people who are disabled or, just have a different idea about how they want their lives to go, and our very freedom, our very continued existence is what's on the line here, Project 2025, or whatever they change the name to, or whatever it'll secretly be once they try to change the branding on it, because that's what Republicans are about, branding. That vision for America is horrifying. And if a person almost but not quite shooting one of the presidential candidates can lead to that horrifying future, what a place we're in, right? I don't know what's going to happen. And anyone, I think, that is confident about what's going to happen next is fooling themselves. Another thing we were talking about earlier is politics and being apolitical. And nothing is apolitical. The food you eat, the fact that you have food to eat, the place that you get to live, your job, the taxes you pay, your insurance, the roads you ride on, the park you take your children to. Like literally every element of your life is influenced by politics. And if you think you can just opt out of politics, you're wrong. There's no way to just opt out. Opting out of politics means that you don't care enough to have any say and that you're okay with whatever happens. That you're willing to accept things like Roe v. Wade being overturned. You're willing to accept contraception being outlawed. And you're willing to accept people like me having to, like, either go back in the closet or die. You know? I mean, like, what do you want from us? What do you want from us to realize that you can't opt out, that you're talking about your own life, that you're talking about my life, that you're talking about your neighbor's life, your family, everyone you've ever met, everyone you care about. Their well-being is on the line right now. And you can't opt out of that, because if you do nothing and he wins and we lose our nation, you're going to have to live with that. And you may say, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't even vote. Well, then you're fooling yourself. Because almost always in presidential elections, more people don't vote than do. And so what that means is that this carefully cultivated apathy that the elites have put in place so that they have an easier time controlling the public policy to get what they want has won. You know? They keep us so tired and so overworked and so stressed and so distracted that we think that we can just opt out of politics. That we think that we can stop caring, or that it doesn't matter, or that our one vote is too small, or our abilities. What can we do? What influence do we have? Well, you know what? You have a lot more influence than you think you have. You can talk to the people around you. You can go to protests. You can support different groups online. You volunteer. You can just educate yourself and just be an informed voter. If you do nothing more than just be an informed voter, then you're at least doing your personal duty. Because this country is so close to dire consequences. We've already suffered a lot. I mean, think about how many people died during COVID. And so many more, thousands, maybe millions of people died during COVID that didn't need to, because we had an ineffective government for the first part of the first most crucial part of the pandemic. What would have happened if we could have taken immediate action, immediate decisive action, and maybe prevented the spread of the disease? And now it's endemic to the population, and we don't even know what long COVID does to people. If you ever are on YouTube and you look at nerdy stuff, you've probably heard about Physics Girl getting the long COVID, and it completely changed her life. She was going all over the world, learning all this cool stuff, has this great YouTube channel, and now she can feed herself. She literally cannot take care of herself. She requires, like, basically round-the-clock care because of long COVID. Young, healthy woman. So, how many more consequences do we have to suffer for everyone to care about this? How long do we have to endure criminally underfunded schools? How long do we have to endure paying so much more for healthcare and getting worse outcomes? How much longer do we have to endure the absolute disrespect of having insurance agents be able to make decisions, medical decisions for us, people they've never met, can override what our doctor says we need because they have some sort of, I don't know, expertise that allows them to practice license without that practice medicine without a license? How long must we endure a system of disability support in this country that is basically set up to take at least 2 years? To make it as difficult as possible for people who are already undergoing health or mental or physical health crises. The worst things in their life is going on, and you've got to fight the government for a couple of years, and I don't know what you're supposed to do to survive in the meantime. No, my savings are gone. I literally live off the charity of my family. That's it. And how long am I supposed to endure this before people care? I survived cancer. I've I've lived with this horrible disease that I don't even have a diagnosis for 3 years. I can't keep going on like this. I need my country to actually show it cares about me. I need to believe that it might actually get better. And Joe Biden, for all his faults, there's some hope that things might improve, or at least not get horribly worse. But if Donald Trump gets elected, I don't even know. And now that he's gotten immunity for official acts, I really don't know. Like, I think there are a lot of people that legitimately will have to flee the country in fear for their lives. And by which I mean, like, comedians, TV broadcasters, you know? This is really real. And I 112 million% condemn what happened. Nobody should have shot Donald Trump or anyone else at any of his rallies. That violence is reprehensible. It's horrible. And I don't know what the motivation behind it was, but it couldn't have been justified. Period. But at the same time, this can't be a distraction. We can't let this be a distraction. The stakes are too high. And I think it's incumbent upon us not to put more weight on this event than it actually has. Because it's still just the actions, as far as we know, of just a lone person acting out. And in a horrible way. I just feel so awful for the man who died. But this isn't an overriding political statement. The actual act is just one person's statement. And what happens next needs to be in proportion to that, but it won't be, And so I think that's why it's important for us to try to turn the focus back on what matters. And, I think that it's absolutely right for the federal government, for the state governments, for local governments to do a thorough investigation into safety and security practices and things like that. But I don't think that the general public needs to give this incident as much weight as it feels like it deserves, because it does not change the fact that the stakes are still as high as they are. It doesn't change the fact that I I have legitimate reason to be terrified for myself and my other queer friends. It and minority friends, you know. I mean, my sister-in-law is black. My you know, a lot of my extended family members are people of color, and you know, I'm scared. I'm genuinely scared for my nephew and my niece and my, well, my nieces and my cousin and their cousins. You know, both my nephew, who's mixed race, and his one of his cousins who is black are autistic, little black boys. And you know, it's bad things have happened to little autistic black boys when they have to deal with law enforcement in this country. Um, there's already so much to worry about. And if that man gets anywhere near the White House again, that's it. There's no hope. The stakes are really just that high. So, what happened is certainly a significant event. But my hope is that the average voter doesn't give it more significance than everything else. That is so much more important. That's so much more broadly impactful than this one event. Heavy one, huh? Let's see if I can show you who was helping me out here. Ooh. Oh, very pro. She does not like being picked up. Poor thing. Oh. Oh, goodness. I got Casey, too, so. Take care of yourself, family members. These are confusing, scary, complicated times, and, you know, be easier with yourself, okay? All right. Love you. Bye.